Marla was halfway through curling her lashes when she dropped it. I won't be here for our anniversary. There's a women in finance thing. In the Dominican. I was setting the table. Nothing extravagant. Just steaks, a bottle of wine we'd been saving for some occasion, and that playlist she used to like. She didn't even glance at the plates. Didn't even blink when she said it. Just kept pressing that mascara wand like she was preparing to attend her own funeral in paradise. I asked, "When did this come up?" She shrugged, still glued to the mirror. "It's been on the radar. You know how these conferences are. Last minute, chaotic." No, I didn't know. In 28 years together, she had never once flown out of the country without first drafting a packing list a week early and showing me 5 outfit options for event night. And this time, just a soft leather suitcase already zipped. That's when I felt it. That microscopic shift in the air, the kind you can't name, but your bones react like animals before an earthquake. I said nothing, ate half my steak in silence. She packed between bites. No questions. No guilt. She even smiled at one point and said, "Don't be weird about this. It's just work. Don't make it a thing." She left the next morning before dawn. Kissed my cheek like she was clocking out. At 7:12 a.m., I opened our shared travel email. Years ago, we linked our accounts because she always forgot itineraries and I always remembered them. Old habits die hard. And there it was. A flight to Punta Cana. Business class. Checked in under Marla Whitmore and Eric Stein. I stared at the screen for a good 5 minutes, then reread it, then typed Eric Stein into LinkedIn, just to confirm what my gut already knew. He wasn't from her department. He wasn't even in finance. He was strategic development at a tech firm based in Seattle. The same firm that had consulted with Marla's team the past 6 months. I remembered him now. A holiday dinner, 2 seats down, arms like he lived at the gym, a laugh that lasted too long. I didn't shout, didn't throw my coffee, didn't even feel the sting I expected. Instead, I felt clear. And before I go on, if you've made it this far, I need you to hear something. Over 97% of people who listen to stories like this never subscribe. But it's your support that keeps this going. So if you're even slightly hooked, hit that button. It doesn't cost a thing, but it motivates the team behind this to go even harder. Back to it. I logged into her cloud drive, not to snoop, just to confirm. She still used the same app for booking hotels and uploading travel docs. There it was again, the Mar Caribe Resort. 3 nights, ocean view, 1 king bed. I printed it, not out of pettiness, but because I knew that silence wouldn't be enough this time. This wasn't just cheating. It was condescension. She thought I was too old to notice, too tired to care. But accountants don't explode. We balance. And now I had a spreadsheet of betrayal names, timestamps, upgrades. The first column filled itself in suspicion. The second, proof. I opened a new sheet, labeled it Dominican. Then I poured myself a glass of that wine we were saving. She hadn't even taken a sip. I lifted the glass. To 28 years, I whispered. And to the next 3 days. Because I wouldn't be flying anywhere. But Marla? She'd be arriving in paradise. Just not the way she expected. The first thing I did after confirming the hotel booking was check if Marla had used her work card again. She had a habit, swipe first, file an oops later. But this time, no corporate account appeared. Instead, I saw something I hadn't thought about in years. Marla's personal credit card. The silver one she'd set up in case something ever happened, and she needed an emergency fund. I was listed as a secondary user, not for spending, just view access, she once said. You know, just in case I lose my phone in an Uber. Well, consider the case open. I logged in. 2 pending charges glared back at me. First, Mar Caribe Luxury Resort, $2,743.84. Second, La Terraza Romance Package, $492.50. Romance package. It wasn't even subtle. I clicked into the itemized breakdown. Candlelit beachside dinner. Exclusive couples tasting menu. Live violinist. And, my personal favorite, Personalized engraved dessert plate for honeymooners. I stared at that line. That damn dessert plate. How poetic. She cancels our anniversary dinner to eat molten lava cake with another man under a fake honeymoon moonlight, paid for with the very credit card I helped her set up. That's when the emotion should have hit. But nothing came. No rage. No tears. Just an odd sense of detachment. Like I was reading about someone else's life. Someone dumber. I took screenshots, each one saved under a folder labeled Marla Audit. Then I made a call. Not to Marla, to Dana Stein. The name hadn't crossed my mind in a year. But there she was in my contacts from that one holiday party in 2022. She wore pearls, brought almond brittle, smiled politely while Eric guzzled Pinot and talked over everyone. She picked up after 2 rings. Hello. Cleared my throat. Dana. A pause. Yes. It's Alan Whitmore, Marla's husband. Alan. Another pause. Everything okay? I exhaled slowly, steadying my voice. I think we need to talk about our spouses. And they're sweet. There was a silence. Not the confused kind, more like the stunned kind. Go on. I told her everything. No drama. No embellishments. Just facts. It felt like presenting a report to a client. Data in. Inside out. She didn't cry. She didn't even sound shocked. Just tired. She asked for the screenshots. I sent them. She texted back. Got them. Give me 10 minutes. She wasn't bluffing. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. A screenshot from her side. Confirmation of a honeymoon upgrade for Mr. and Mrs. Stein at Mar Caribe Resort. Oceanfront. Complimentary champagne. Rose petals. All booked. All charged. To her own Amex points. I blinked at the screen. Why'd you do it so fast? I asked when she called back. Dana's voice was even. Because he's predictable. He always books low tier and then tries to charm an upgrade. He's too proud to pay for the top shelf. I chuckled dryly. So we just handed him the shelf. I also added a check-in note, she said. From me. Congratulations on your honeymoon. Figured the concierge could deliver it personally. There was a beat of silence. You okay, Alan? She finally asked. I paused. Looked at the wine-stained tablecloth from last night. The untouched second plate of steak I'd left on the counter. I will be, I said. This helps. Dana cleared her throat. If it makes you feel better. I checked his email calendar. He marked this weekend as a wellness retreat. That's what he told me. Marla said women in finance. I said, guess that's technically true. She is a woman. And she's financed. That got a short, bitter laugh from both of us. Then we hung up. I sat in silence for a while, staring at the glowing laptop screen. And for the first time in 2 days, I felt something sharp slip back into place. Not anger. Control. They were still on a plane somewhere over the Gulf of Mexico, blissfully unaware that their little escape was already unraveling. And me? I had an upgraded view, from 1,800 miles away. When Dana called back, her voice was colder. Not shaken, just pared down like a scalpel in a glove. No fluff, no filler. I opened his calendar, she said. He marked the trip as a corporate retreat in Denver. I checked the flight tracker. There's no storm delay. Their plane just landed in Punta Cana. I could hear her typing something in the background. Give me the name of the resort again? Mar Caribe. Spelled with an E. She muttered under her breath. Figures. That place has been on his travel radar since last year. He bookmarked the spa packages on our shared browser. I didn't think much of it. I sent her the screenshots, the charges, the itinerary, the dinner reservation. I even included the line item with the engraved dessert plate. That one landed. She went quiet for a beat, then said, That's a new one. He usually just books a suite and tells the staff it's our anniversary. Cheap, theatrical stuff. Guess he decided to pay for an upgrade. I said, Correction, she replied. We decided. Another pause. Then, I have access to our shared Amex points. Want to give them a real honeymoon suite. I exhaled through my nose. I was hoping you'd say that. 2 minutes later, she sent me a forwarded email with the subject line: Upgrade confirmation, Mar Caribe Resort. Room, honeymoon deluxe, oceanfront. Amenities, complimentary champagne, welcome platter, pedal turn-down service, private cabana included. Check-in note: Mr. and Mrs. Stein's honeymoon upgrade confirmed. We hope you enjoy your romantic escape. Beneath that was a timestamp and a booking agent's confirmation. She'd used her own points, charged nothing extra to the card. It was free, elegant, and unmistakable. Concierge is going to see that note when they arrive, Dana said. It'll be the first thing they hear, and they'll smile and nod. I added, because it's not a lie. Not exactly. Oh, it's definitely a lie, she said, but the best kind. The kind that sounds like a reward. We both laughed, sharper this time. I'd known Dana for less than a handful of hours, and yet I trusted her more than the woman I'd shared a bed with for 28 years. She didn't ask how I was doing. She didn't offer empty sympathy. She stayed on task. Cool. Tactical. She was the kind of woman who had clearly been here before, not necessarily in geography but in betrayal. She recognized the terrain, moved through it like she'd mapped it years ago. He's never going to admit it, she said suddenly. Even when they get caught. Eric always spins it. Says I misunderstood the context. Like I'm a toddler who overheard a grown-up conversation. Marla does that too, I said. She makes me feel like a jealous teenager for noticing anything. Last week I asked about a dinner she had with him and she said, "You're reading into things." Dana chuckled. Reading? We're practically proofreading now. We ended the call with a mutual understanding. No more warnings. No more emotional appeals. Just actions. I left the laptop open, staring at the booking confirmation like it was a photograph of a crime scene. Not bloody. Not messy. Just clinical. And poetic. Two adulterers walking into a 5-star resort, greeted as honeymooners. It almost wrote itself. There's a kind of elegance to letting people ruin themselves with no interruptions. No screaming. No intercepted airport scenes or weepy confrontations. Just a soft-spoken woman at the front desk handing them a key and saying, "We hope your honeymoon is everything you dreamed." I poured myself another glass of wine. Not a toast this time, just hydration. It was going to be a long weekend. But not for me. For them. The sun was still overhead when they arrived at Mar Caribe, dragging 2 matching pieces of overpriced luggage through the lobby like a couple in a perfume ad. Marla wore a linen jumpsuit too crisp to have been packed, hair loose, oversized sunglasses hiding what I imagined were eyes that scanned the room too fast. Eric looked like a man who had already cheated 3 times before lunch. The concierge spotted them immediately. "Ah yes, Mr. and Mrs. Stein. Welcome back. Congratulations again." Marla froze mid-step. Eric's smirk wavered, then landed somewhere between confused and cornered. Thank you." They exchanged a glance, subtle but jagged. The concierge, oblivious to the performance, handed over the keycards. "You'll find the honeymoon suite has already been prepared. Oceanfront, of course. And the chefs sent up something special." Marla blinked. "Sorry, honeymoon suite?" "Yes, as requested by Mrs. Stein. She left the sweetest note. We placed it with your champagne." Eric recovered quicker. Laughed. "Wow. Dana really went all out, huh?" He squeezed Marla's hand. "Guess she forgives easily." That line must have landed like a knife. They rode the elevator up in silence, and when the suite door clicked open, it hit them like a trap sprung with velvet gloves. The air inside was cool. Rose petals dotted the bed in a heart shape, like a cliché sent through a paper shredder. There was a small framed card on the side table. It read, "Happy honeymoon. We hope your love continues to grow with every sunset." Next to it, a bottle of Dom, 2 flutes already chilled, and a folded note. Dana's handwriting. No flourish. No smiley face. Just 8 words. "Smile for the cameras. We're watching. Love, D." There were no cameras. Not that they could find. But that wasn't the point. Eric pulled back the curtains, looked out at the beach. then back at the closet. Marla, for the first time since landing, looked small. "I'm sure she's bluffing," Eric muttered, but his voice lacked the conviction he usually carried like cologne. They didn't touch the champagne. That night, they ordered room service instead of going out. When the server knocked, Marla peeked through the peephole twice. Eric asked, half joking, "Think she bugged the room?" Marla didn't answer. She was too busy scanning the ceiling for smoke detectors that suddenly looked like microphones. The paranoia didn't spike all at once. Crept, slid, coiled around their little paradise like a silent python. She asked him where Dana might have gotten the booking info. He said maybe someone at his office leaked it. She asked how long Dana had known. He shrugged, said maybe just today. Then she asked, offhand casually, if he'd ever used this hotel with someone else. That one hit a nerve. "What's that supposed to mean?" he snapped, too quickly. "I mean, it feels rehearsed, like you've done this before." He stood there, halfway into his steak, and gave her a look that could have ignited a war or an apology. Instead, he said nothing, which was worse. By 10 p.m., Marla had excused herself to the balcony with a glass of wine and her phone. She texted me once. Just, "Are you home?" I didn't reply. I wanted the silence to stretch. I wanted her to feel the cold wind of space she'd created. Inside that honeymoon suite, surrounded by petals and lies, two people who thought they were sneaking away found themselves buried alive under their own fiction. No accusations yet, no blow-ups, but the seed was planted. And guilt? Guilt blooms fast in tropical weather. Dana called me the next morning, early. She didn't bother with pleasantries. Just said, "I have a voice that can pass for hers when I need it." I already knew where this was going. "Think you can pull it off?" I asked. Dana scoffed. "I used to order takeout for both of us when we were traveling." He never noticed the difference. Men like Eric don't listen to women. They just assume we're speaking in service. 10 minutes later, she called back. "Done." I told the front desk I was Marla Whitmore and I needed the folio for corporate reimbursement. Gave them her firm name and everything. They didn't blink. Said it would be emailed within the hour. And it was. An 8-page PDF. Line by line. Itemized betrayal. Room upgrade. $0. Covered by Dana's Amex points. Welcome champagne. $84. Private cabana rental. 2 days, $540. Amantes moonlight dinner. 2 guests. $290. Sunrise yoga for 2, beachfront $110. Couples massage package, 45 minutes, $320. Mini bar charges, $176. Laundry service, $73. Custom dessert plate engraving, $45. And my personal favorite, petal turn-down service romantic enhancement package, $67. Romantic enhancement. Good. Great. Excellent branding. I didn't feel angry. I felt invigorated. Like the math finally made sense. I redacted the billing address and credit card info, then prepared 2 emails. The first went to a woman named Gretchen Volkov, Marla's firm's compliance officer. I'd met her once at a formal dinner and remembered 2 things. She hated dishonesty, and she hated when people expensed personal indulgences as team building. Subject line, possible expense concern, client trip or personal travel. Body, Gretchen, apologies for the forward, but this folio was sent to me in error and lists my wife, Marla Whitmore, as the guest of record. I believe it may have been charged under the assumption it was work-related, but it includes some questionable line items, romantic packages, couple services, etc., that don't align with her travel explanation. Thought it best you see this directly. Regards, Alan Whitmore. Attached, the full folio. No commentary, no accusations, just precision. The second email took a little longer. It was harder, because this one went to Linda Garrett, Marla's mother. A woman who, for 20 years, insisted her daughter had married beneath her station, and once told me that loyalty was a blue-collar virtue. Subject line, thought you should know how she's celebrating our anniversary. Body, Linda, I'm not looking for advice, not seeking sympathy. But I think transparency matters, especially when family's involved. Attached is where Marla is right now. Today would have been 28 years. I imagine you'll have questions. I'm no longer the one to answer them. Attached. A redacted version of the folio, with the header showing the resort name, dates, guest name, and just enough charges to paint the picture. I made sure honeymoon suite and couples massage stayed highlighted. No reply came. Not immediately. But I knew the grenade had been rolled into the room. Now I just had to wait for the pin to go off. I imagined Marla poolside, sunglasses on, phone nearby. Maybe she'd sense the shift before the notifications landed, like a barometric drop before a thunderstorm. I sat back in my chair, closed the laptop, and looked around my office. Everything in its place. Papers sorted. No drama. No noise. Just math. And I was balancing the account. She had spent 28 years investing in fiction. I had spent the last 4 days returning to fact. The first ripple hit Tuesday morning, somewhere around 9:17 a.m. Eastern Time. A blurry screenshot circulated through Marla's office Slack thread, nestled between cat memes and passive-aggressive messages about leaving dirty mugs in the break room. The screenshot was a crop of an email, specifically the one I'd sent to Gretchen in compliance. Someone must have been in the CC loop and decided it was too good not to share. First, it was just whispers. One eyebrow raised in the hallway, a chuckle from the break room that ended too abruptly. Then Marla's phone started lighting up. 6 missed calls. 2 from her direct supervisor, 1 from HR, and 3 from an unknown number that she'd probably find out later was legal. By noon, Gretchen had sent a formal request asking for immediate clarification regarding the nature of travel charges submitted under your name. The attached document was titled Potential Misuse of Corporate Resources, urgent in bold, red font. Meanwhile, back in Punta Cana, Marla was still trying to enjoy her passion-fruit mimosa. Eric, however, was less committed to the illusion. He'd gone quiet since the concierge wished them a blessed honeymoon. His smile had become mechanical. His hands twitched when his phone buzzed. Dana had posted something. He wasn't sure what. He refused to open it. That night, after dinner, room service again, he stood on the balcony for 20 minutes, staring at the surf like it owed him an apology. Then he said, without turning around, "I need to go back. Something came up at work." Marla blinked. "Now? You're cutting the trip short." He didn't answer, just started packing. She watched him fold his shirts, perfect creases, obsessive tucking, and realized this wasn't just a man going home. This was a man retreating. He left the next morning, didn't say goodbye, left half his charger behind. And Marla, for the first time since stepping into paradise, was well and truly alone. No lover, no escape plan, just an inbox hemorrhaging damage control requests and a slowly rotting plate of fresh fruit in a hotel suite that now felt like a mausoleum. That afternoon, she finally texted me. "Marla, can we talk?" No apology, no explanation, just those 4 words. I didn't reply, not immediately. Instead, I went to Instagram. Dana had posted a photo to her feed. A clean shot of the Mar Caribe resort folio, artfully laid out next to a cappuccino and a fountain pen. The caption? "Fun fact, cheating on your wife with a married woman and charging it to her card isn't tax deductible." Hot beverage receipt. I took a screenshot, cropped it perfectly, then sent it to Marla. No words, just the image. She saw it within seconds. Read it, then didn't respond. I imagined her in that oversized suite, scrolling through the comment section. People reacting with laughing emojis, gasps, messages of "OMG, is this who I think it is?" and subtle tags to mutual friends. The digital whispers were now howls. Her carefully curated image, the empowered career woman, the strategic consultant, the mentor for women in business, was cracking like old paint. And the cracks weren't clean. They were ugly, the kind that invite mold. She could still try to patch things, of course. Write up an excuse, cry to HR, maybe even throw Eric under the bus. But it wouldn't matter, because this wasn't about paperwork anymore. This was social rot. And once that sets in, the smell lingers. Every elevator ride, every conference room, every smile that's just a little too polite. Marla didn't just cheat. She overdrafted her social capital. And now the bank was foreclosing. She tried again 3 days later. Marla, I need to explain. Please don't do anything rash. I stared at the notification, then swiped it away like an ad I'd already seen too many times. Rash? I had been silent, dignified, precise. But silence, it turns out, speaks louder when it follows proof. No more sarcastic smiles. No more clever jabs. No more pretending. Just clean decisions. I met with a lawyer Dana recommended. Someone who specialized in high-conflict divorces with compromised optics. His office was understated. His demeanor even more so. He asked for the timeline. I gave him a flash drive labeled MW/ES evidence. He plugged it in, watched for 5 minutes, said, "This won't be hard." I filed for legal separation. No theatrics, no drama, no courtroom monologues. Just form after form, notarized and slipped into neat manila folders. Then I began cleaning house. I canceled every joint credit card, froze the checking account, set up my own at a credit union Marla had once mocked as a place for people who still use fax machines. I changed all the locks, not just on the front door but on the home office, the room she never entered but always assumed would be waiting. I boxed up everything of mine, left her things untouched. That was important. I wanted her to see the absence, not the mess. When I finished packing, I stood in the middle of our bedroom. The bed we bought with our first real tax return. The mirror she always used when checking earrings. The scent of her floral dry shampoo still faint in the air. I didn't feel hate. I didn't feel victory. I felt a done. And in its own strange way, that was sacred. The morning of her return, I left the key on the kitchen counter next to a note I'd written in blue ink, folded once. It read, 28 years. You gave me silence. I gave you elegance. That was it. No sincerely, no signature. Just the exchange. Because that's what this had been all along. An unspoken trade. I gave her loyalty. She gave me neglect. I gave her grace. She gave me performance. I gave her silence now, yes, but with punctuation. Marla landed at 6:32 p.m. She walked into a house colder than the one she left. No suitcases in the hallway. No leftovers in the fridge. Just a clean table, a folded note, and the sound of nothing at all. No arguments. No accusations. No begging. The kind of ending you don't see in movies because it doesn't leave bruises, only gaps. And gaps are harder to heal. Because there's nothing to stitch, just space, which is what she wanted, and what she got. It was a Tuesday night when I met Dana again, 2 weeks after the silence began. We chose a small Italian place tucked into the back of a strip mall, the kind of place with paper tablecloths, dim lighting, and a chef who yelled in the kitchen like it was part of the ambience. Nothing fancy, which frankly was the point. We'd both had our fill of grand gestures. Dana arrived wearing a navy sweater and jeans. No makeup, no armor, just a real person stripped of pretense. I almost didn't come, she admitted as we sat down. I wasn't sure if this would feel like closure or curiosity. Could be both, I said. We ordered wine, Chianti for me, something white and sharp for her. The waitress looked relieved we weren't asking for substitutions or splitting entrees. We didn't talk about Marla. Or Eric. Not directly. Instead, we talked about music. Dana played piano badly, she claimed. I told her about a jazz album I used to fall asleep to during tax season. Back when numbers felt like puzzles instead of paper cuts. We laughed about the absurdity of it all. How do you even pack for adultery in paradise? She mused. Is there a checklist? Sunscreen, lies, backup alibi. I chuckled. Don't forget rose petals. Apparently that's essential. The petals, she said, shaking her head. God, the petals. There was no bitterness in her tone anymore, just bemusement, like the two of us were standing at the edge of some dark, ridiculous play and finally reading the script out loud. Over plates of carbonara and soft bread, We let the weight slide off in pieces. Not all at once, just enough to breathe. At one point, she leaned back and said, "You seem lighter." "I feel it," I said. "Strange, isn't it? I should be furious or hollow. But instead, you feel awake," she finished. I nodded. "Yeah, like I've been underwater for years, and someone finally pulled the plug." She didn't smile. She understood. The check came. I offered to pay. She insisted on splitting it. We compromised. I paid for dinner. She left the tip. Felt balanced. Outside, the air was crisp. Leaves turning, wind a little sharper than expected. We stood by our cars a moment too long. Not because we didn't know what to say, but because neither of us wanted to cheapen the evening by turning it into something it wasn't ready to be. I didn't lean in. She didn't move closer. Instead, as she opened her door, she reached across the gap and touched my hand. Warm, steady, no trembling. "Thank you," she said, "for not pretending we're something we're not." I nodded. "And thank you for making something real feel possible again." She smiled, not the kind that poses, but the kind that happens when someone recognizes themselves in the mirror for the first time in a while. Then she got in her car and drove away. No cliffhanger, no promises, just a single, clear note in the quiet symphony that was beginning to play after years of static. Something had shifted. Not a romance. Not yet, but something. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't dread what came next. Marla was mid-sentence. Something about risk portfolios and market volatility, when the waiter returned to the table with a soft, apologetic smile and a black leather folio in hand. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said in that careful, rehearsed tone meant to soothe the powerful. "Your card was declined." She blinked. "That's impossible." He offered the card back discreetly. "Perhaps you have another?" The client, a regional director from a hedge fund, pretended not to notice, but the flicker of raised eyebrows said otherwise. Marla fumbled through her wallet. The silence between them thickened. She used a personal card instead, forced a tight smile, and continued her pitch as if nothing had happened. But her voice betrayed her. One octave too high, one beat too fast. The moment the meeting ended, she stepped into the restroom, locked herself into a stall, and checked her email. There it was. Subject: Expense review, action required immediately. From Compliance Audit Team. The message was dry, corporate, and lethal. "Ms. Whitmore, due to recent discrepancies noted in your submitted travel reimbursements, we are launching a formal audit of all claims made in the past fiscal year. Please be advised that your corporate card has been suspended pending the outcome of this review. Should you have documentation to clarify personal versus business-related expenses, please upload them by end of business this Friday. This includes, but is not limited to, charges submitted from the Mar Caribe Resort dated, redacted." She didn't breathe for 5 full seconds. Then the phone buzzed again. One new message from Dana Stein. No subject line, no greeting, just 2 things. PDF attachment, and a subject that read, "Your room was lovely." Marla opened it. The resort folio again. Same damning list of charges. But this time, Dana had annotated it in pale yellow highlight. "Honeymoon suite, paid by Dana Stein." Underneath it, a footnote in Dana's handwriting. Not typed, scanned. "Let me know if you'd like a copy for HR too." The stall suddenly felt smaller, tighter. The roar in her ears made it hard to focus. Marla closed the email and stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. What stared back wasn't the composed executive. It was a woman unraveling at the edges. One missed payment away from implosion. She had built her career on image. Curated social posts, panel appearances, empowering women in finance with speeches about integrity. And now, a dinner, a charge, a suite, all unraveling in reverse. Not with a bang, just tiny, precise slices. Her reputation wasn't bruised anymore. It was hemorrhaging. And no one had to raise a voice. Not Alan. Not Dana. Just a declined card. And a file that wouldn't stop following her. It was just after midnight when Marla's phone buzzed on the nightstand. She was lying in bed alone, staring at the ceiling, the glow of the city flickering through the half-closed blinds like a pulse she couldn't quite sync with. Her days had become a drip of awkward silences and tighter smiles. Clients hesitating, colleagues avoiding eye contact, whispers lingering too long behind glass walls. She reached for the phone, thumb hovering over the notification. New message from Alan Whitmore. The first direct contact since the day she walked back into their house and found him gone. Her stomach dropped. The message was short. One line. You always wanted to live like nothing could touch you. No hello. No accusation. Just the sentence, plain, cruel in its restraint. And attached below it, a video file. File name, Stein_check-in_1080p.mp4. She hesitated, then tapped. The footage opened with a soft chime. Hotel lobby. Smooth marble floors. Ferns in tall vases. The Mar Caribe logo glittering behind the concierge desk. And then there they were, her and Eric, walking hand in hand like teenagers sneaking into a beach motel. She was laughing at something he'd whispered, tilting her head back just enough to be unmistakable. Eric gave the concierge his name. The concierge beamed. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Stein," he said, loud enough to echo. The audio was perfect, crystal clear. The moment froze there, her hand in his, the concierge handing over the keys, the honeymoon welcome package resting on the counter in the background. There was no denying it, no ambiguity, not a photograph, not gossip, but proof. Marla hit pause. She looked around her apartment. Once theirs, now just hers. Echoes of a life she assumed would stay stitched together because silence had always been Alan's currency. But he hadn't exploded. He'd waited, measured, struck with surgeon's precision. She hit play again, watched herself laughing, basking, caught. The concierge's voice rang out again. "Welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Stein." She winced this time, because now it wasn't just embarrassing. It was eternal. That footage would outlive every denial, every pivot, every polished statement she might one day try to craft. A single video, burned into inboxes, archived in cloud drives, quietly forwarded to the people who mattered most in her curated world. Alan hadn't needed to raise his voice. He just let the truth speak, and it spoke fluently. As the video looped once more, Marla sat frozen, her phone growing hot in her hand, the weight of every decision pressing inward like a room with no exits. No one would forget, not because of scandal, but because of elegance. Because this is what it looked like when a man didn't fight back. He simply erased you with receipts and left you staring at yourself from a camera you never saw, over and over and over again.